And we are live.
What's up, everybody? How you guys all doing? Happy Wednesday. Welcome back, Two Guys in a Bar. You guys know the crew, but just in case you don't, in case it is your first time, I want to go around and let's introduce everybody, starting with our special guest tonight. Let's start with our guest here.
Am I introducing myself here?
Oh, yeah.
What's up, guys? I'm Xillin. My name is Xillin.
All right.
I'm Super TCG on Twitch. Generally just go by Super. What's up, everybody?
And I'm Bardic.
And guys, if you don't know me, it's Fane. We're here live every Wednesday night. We're talking Ashes of Creation. We're so glad that you guys can all be here with us. We've all got cocktails at hand. And I think let's go around the room now that everyone knows who everybody is. Let's actually talk about what we're drinking tonight. Let's start with you, Super.
I got the tried and true whiskey sour back.
All right.
Back to the whiskey sour, a classic. What about you, Bard?
Tonight I've got a Black Manhattan. So it's whiskey and a little bit of Amaro and some bitters.
Xillin, I got to throw you under the bus. What are you drinking?
I'm having some oak barrel aged, the finest water.
Beautiful.
I'm jealous.
Beautiful. Did you guys figure out who on the stream is a responsible adult?
Well, it ain't me, so I don't know who it's supposed to be.
Has anyone seen that meme going around where it's like, when you're a kid, you think the adult drink is coffee. Then you get to your teenage years, you think the adult drink is alcohol. And then you become an adult and you realize the adult drink is water.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I think that's amazing. That is amazing.
And what are you drinking?
I'll tell you guys, I'm drinking No Whale here. So you guys saw last week. I know this isn't as good, Bard. You don't like the, it doesn't have as good of a label on it, but this is also from Austin, Texas. When I was down there, it is a farmhouse wit beer with coriander, lavender, and Texas oranges.
All right, very nice.
I did pour my girlfriend enough, so I'm not going to get yelled at after the stream this time.
I mean, you still will. It'll just be for something else, right?
That's also
Right.
true.
There you go.
So yeah, I mean, we do have guest star Xillin on, and we wanted to have him on because huge congratulations to him. His YouTube channel just hit 1K subscribers. So if you don't already follow Xillin, I'll drop a link here in the, give me a second. I didn't have it ready. I'm a professional streamer. But I will drop a link here so you guys can all go follow him. He's making some awesome Ashes of Creation content. He's a lot of fun to listen to and watch. And yeah, I mean, he's posting videos almost every day, every other day, something like that.
Almost. I try to. It's crazy how little content there is for this game for us to make, and juxtapose that with how much demand there is for content.
Yeah.
My Discord is filled on the daily with people posting things like videos or else and stuff like that. So yeah, I try to make something every day. I don't hit that goal every single day, but I would say at least 6 days a week.
Yeah.
So Xillin, I mean, you kind of mentioned like the lack of content, how little content there is to be had. And I know that a lot of us have experienced that for a bunch of years. Cause but I know that in this group and in our chat, we've got a lot of people that have been, following since 2017, 2018, 2019. When did you first kind of discover Ashes of Creation?
I discovered Ashes of Creation at the same time all of you guys did. I saw the Kickstarter video when it went nuts, when it first, the first day or whatever. And this is what I did right here. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You're going to do all that in a video game. Okay, buddy, get out of here. Like that was seriously my reaction. I've been an MMO guy since 1998, and I've been through all the disappointing launches and the lies and the scams and all that stuff. And so I was pretty jaded and pretty cynical about the genre as a whole. And, but the things happened. And during 2020, when we were all locked down and I was in the house and I was just looking for something to do, I thought, let me go look at old Ashes of Creation and just, see what's going on. And I caught a couple of the live streams. I didn't catch them live. I caught a couple of videos of the live streams. And I thought, man, they sure are doing a lot of stuff. And this Steve and Sharif guy, I like this guy, the way the things that he says, and so then that got me on like on a loop of watching everybody's content, and I started developing like my own personal favorite Ashes of Creation content creators, and then I started going, you know what, this is something I want to do. I want to talk about this game. So then I started my channel in May of this year. I posted my very first ever YouTube video.
Yeah, and you're crushing it, man.
Nice.
Well done. And yeah, I think it's awesome because the Ashes of Creation content creator community is like super small and tight knit. For the most part,
Mhm.
everyone is supporting each other. And
Mhm.
that's, I mean, we talked about it on the previous podcast, but I think we all grow together, right? Like it's up to us to figure out how to create content. And there, as you said, there's only so much you can talk about. So then it comes down to community building, right? The community
Right.
doing things together. And yeah, maybe it's not 100% Ashes, but hey, if we start mashing ourselves together and doing fun things and just like, as I said, to like this whole podcast is designed to be something a little different. It's supposed to kind of mix some of our passions. Super, myself, and Fane all like to drink. Fane and I have both been craft cocktail bartenders. And we're like, hey, it's a good chance to just, do something a little different. And yes, we will be talking about Ashes. That'll be the primary focus, but
Right.
we'll also go on tangents. We'll talk about whatever floats the boat. And I know
Yeah,
you've said in
absolutely.
your videos you're great at going on tangents.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was I have a background in radio. For 3
Okay.
years I was on a local morning radio show. We talked for 4 hours every morning. And two things. Number one, the show host, he wouldn't tell us what we were about to talk about. So I didn't know what the topic of the next segment was until the listeners did. And then he would kind of set it up and then he would toss it to me. And I was just expected to just be able to talk about it in an insightful or charming or funny way, do something with it. And so I got pretty decent at that, I think. And then yes, the whole idea of the show, we would call it the derailing. The show would totally derail and go completely off the rails of what we thought it was going to do, And when we first started doing it, when we first got that right, that it took a while to get the right crew, the right 3 people. But once we did, it started derailing all the time, and we were trying so hard to like keep it under wraps all the time. And the program, the show, not the show, but the station programmer, the main guy, pulled us into the office one day and he's like, stop trying to stop the derailing, ride
Yeah.
the derail. And we're like, okay. And when we did that, the show took off and we went to #1 in the market and we held it for years. And so that definitely, I'm all about the tangents.
And that's right along with Ashes of Creation, right? That's the whole point, is we're supposed to be this sandbox. We're getting off the rails. We're no longer a theme park MMO, obviously with some rails saying, hey, push yourself this way a little bit, but hey, whenever you're ready to jump off and go try some things, you're welcome to.
Right.
And so we have a question. What are your thoughts on the Snorse, the Stufferton, the Tolnar, and then what I have coined the Moon Chicken, which is the most recent, like, halberd beaked, blade beak. I don't know what to call that thing. So I've named it Moon Chicken. What are your thoughts on each of those, Xillin?
Um, um,
Burn it all.
I don't even know. I know what the Tolnar are. What the hell is a Snorse and a Tufferton? Are those like mobs in the game or something?
Those are mounts that they've released at various times. Stuffertons is a bear with stuffing coming out of it. When everyone kind of pushed back on it, Steven said, well, don't worry. It's a magical teddy bear that a wizard made come alive for his nephew or something.
Okay.
I mean, just threw it in. The Snorse, if you look on the wiki, is the Wisp Whelk, and it looks like a snail horse. And those are kind of the 2 big mount memes in the community right now.
Okay. I will admit that I am not much on keeping up with like the whole meme part of the like, I don't hang out on the wiki and just watch all the memes and stuff. And I know a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And I've never been, I'm a little too old for that, I think.
I mean, just the more you get integrated into the community, the more it just is forced in your face. So
It's not that I don't like memes. I like memes a
Yeah.
lot. I laugh at them, but I don't like. I know that's really a thing for the generation beneath me, and then even more the younger generation. They're all of their humor is meta. Everything that they do is meta, and it's all based on memes, and that's everything to them. And to me, it's like, yeah, they're funny when I see them, but I don't go searching them out. When I have friends that are younger than me that like sit on their phone, and they're literally just looking for memes all day long. So,
Yeah.
so I don't really have much to comment on those things. The elk snail combo mount. I think I've seen that one before, and it's a pretty wild looking mount, man. I don't know if I'm going to run around on that one.
Yeah, I mean that was the pack I bought into. So when I bought my Alpha 2 pack, so that's no, I was before that. But then it came out later, and at first I was like, I don't know how I feel about this, but I am personally all for the super kind of goofy, unique mounts, things you aren't going to see
Okay.
elsewhere. So, like, I love, as I said, what I call the moon chicken. I don't like Stepperton. I don't think that's unique at all. I don't think it's like, as I said, I don't think it fits in what they're trying to do. But these mixes and matches of like kind of weird and unique creatures for mounts, I'm all for. So I love the Snorse. I love the moon chicken. I don't know what to say about Tolnar. We just have no information on them. So, um,
So that actually goes in really well with the animal husbandry system of this game, because there's a lot of combining of two different species and seeing what you get out of it. So their mount system seems to go really well with the animal husbandry system that they're putting in place. So yeah, that's really interesting.
and
I'm looking at these mounts now, trying to find the one you're talking about.
yeah. So if you just type Snorse Ashes of Creation, that one comes up. The chicken one is the most recent one, so that's right on the website under news for the most recent. And then the stuff, if you just type in Stufferton, I think it should come up on Google.
Oh my goodness, that thing is wild looking. What in the world is that?
Are you looking at the Snorse?
Yeah, which
I'm looking at the Snorse. What is going on there?
Yeah, the Snorse is
it's a giraffe anteater snail. That just there's so much going on with it. I have no idea.
There's nothing good about it. Literally burn the game. I hate this thing so much. I've already, and I will say this out there, and I'm going to tell everybody, and if you guys want to rip this idea off, you're more than welcome to, but I know that I will have a series on my YouTube that will literally just be clips of me killing people riding the Snorse. It will be Snorse Hunter. I hate this mount with every portion of my body. You could take this mount, put it in Chronicles of Valyria. I'd be fine with that. Just let it burn down, you know?
hey, it's Kingdoms of Valyria now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kingdoms of Valyria. Kingdoms of Valyria. I'm still surprised because that game had promise in terms of what they said. I'm surprised I missed the boat on that one. That wasn't the one. I fired my 500 at Ashes. I fired my 500 at Crowfall. I missed the boat on that one, and I'm just patting myself on the back to this day about that.
Yeah, and what's funny is because Chronicles of Valyria and Ashes kind of released at the same time, or the Kickstarters were real close to each other, and I actually preferred the ideas of Chronicles of Valyria. I didn't put any money in either one of them because I'm like, again, so jaded and cynical when it comes to these MMOs. And then as time has gone by, I kind of drifted away from Chronicles of Valyria, and then I saw what happened with it, and I was like, "Woo! Thank God, I didn't invest in that."
So it's funny. There's this thing we've talked about in Axiom, which is called the peacocking role. So you basically play whatever people hate most. So you'll be like a bard on a Snorse in like very like weird, vibrant armor, and you'll be riding
with
out
a corgi.
Yeah, with a corgi following behind you. And you'll just be riding out in front to draw out all the enemy rogues because they just can't help but like attack you. They're like, I just have to kill you. I don't care if I'm gonna die myself, but I have to attack this person. And so
there was one thing. There was one thing you said there that was definitely accurate, that people don't like bards. You're right
for some reason. I'm gonna change that. I'm going to be your bard and savior.
Your bard and savior. I love that. That's good. You should change your YouTube channel the name to that. That's good.
Hey, we might have a separate channel for that.
Yeah. There you go.
Here's the thing. I don't want to lean too into bard because I'm still not even like committed to Bard, right? I haven't seen the class. I'm not
Oh
gonna
well,
be
good
like,
thing you didn't name your channel Bartik.
Yeah.
hey, there's a lot of different types of bards. I'm just not going to lean that hard into it. Leaned into it a little.
I'm so shocked by how many people have like hard and fast opinions as to what class they're going to play before they even know anything about any of the classes. It's insane to me.
Right. Right.
Like,
Yeah,
I have a
I know
list
I'm
of-
going to play a tank, but that's only because I always play a tank.
Yeah.
So that like
Yeah.
it don't matter to me if it's meta, if it's not meta. I don't care. I'm going to play a tank because I always play a tank. But if it weren't for that, I would have no clue what class I was playing.
I can see like wanting to
I
play.
have my flavor. Like, I have my flavor of stuff that I like to play, like melee DPS, tank, range DPS. So like within that, I have a list of stuff that I'm looking at. But in no way, shape, or form is anything permanent until I see, abilities, augments, especially like all of
Yeah.
that stuff coming in.
all that stuff. Yep.
and
I
that's
have no idea what secondary class I would go. Just tank.
Yeah.
and that's it for me. Is like I can see picking a role, right? Not necessarily an archetype. Picking a tank though, like it is the role. Like that's why it's named tank. Cleric cleric and bard are both support roles, and I'm leaning towards either support or tank. So that's where I'm at. So that's kind of why I'm like. And honestly, to me, like the idea of a support tank sounds amazing. So like a bard tank or tank bard just sounds super fun.
Tank bard is where
I-
I'm leaning.
It's actually nice to hear you say that, because I low key think that tank bard is going to be something, depending on how they go with bard. But in my head, I feel like tank bard could be one of those things that is more of a like the general tank, right? So the tank that's kind of decent. Yeah, the tank that's decent in every situation. You might want like the tank mage for magic mitigation or something like that if they go that way. But I think I do see a world where I may have Bard as secondary.
Oh,
I might have to like punish myself in some way, shape, or form in doing so. But.
So for those who don't know, Supra has self-proclaimed himself of following the religion of kill all bards.
Oh, okay.
So this is big steps for him. He's reformed.
This is really that like interior self-hate, like when you're just really upset at who you were. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what that is.
So what do you guys think about the potential for talking about different classes here? What do you guys think about the potential for, we kind of got like a mini teaser that Ranger might come up when the visual NDA drops for the July test. Granted that doesn't get pushed back. What do you guys think is the chances of us getting another class, or even two, or none, once that visual drops? Start with you, Xillin.
Okay. I mean, 0%. Like Ranger, okay, because we know that's like in the game. They've developed, they've worked on it, and it would be in these testings if they didn't break the bows or make the bows where they corrupt your game or whatever. So yeah, like I could see Ranger, but the other ones, I don't think there's any chance. I think there's a much higher chance that we're going to see the passive tree get unlocked, potentially more stuff inside of the nodes for us to do, maybe more quests along with the nodes and more crafting. But I think that's about it. But I definitely think that if they drop the visual NDA and don't add any content at all than what's in there now, man, like everybody planning on streaming the game 12 hours a day are going to be going, I don't have anything left to show you guys. So
yeah, they're going to stream for a weekend.
Yeah.
They'll stream for a weekend and be all like, I got nothing left. Like,
I got nothing left, guys. Yeah.
So.
And I guess we're here. We can come back. Let's come back to what they might introduce when the visual NDA drops. And let's just talk about the NDA dropping, because like it's what everyone wants to talk about, right? We already gravitated towards it. We're 2 weeks away from that. And I do want to point out that Steven said that we're supposed to have passives released this week. If we go by what he said. So last week, or not last test, but 2 weeks tests ago, he had said that we will see passives and combat iterations in the next couple weeks. So if you're taking that literally as couple weeks, like Friday is the last chance for him to uphold that. I understand if it gets pushed back, whatever. But beyond that, what do you guys think about an NDA dropping in 2 weeks?
So before you guys answer, just in case you guys are not checking Discord, Steven literally just a few minutes ago put out a message, and in the end of it, he says, "Fingers crossed, it's looking like we may have killed the AI controller issue."
Yeah, and I will say that like this was the like we had a test today, and it's actually going on right now.
Right now, yep.
And I mean, we want to stick true to the show. We've got supposedly a test tomorrow and a test Friday, but
Yep.
things got delayed a little bit. So it was supposed to potentially like have the patch servers live at 1. That got pushed back till 3. Then like they didn't actually get posted until about 4:30. This is all Pacific time. And so everything got pushed back, and then but when I logged in, this was the smoothest I've ever seen it. Like things
Mhm.
were going smooth. I was in the cave, no rubber banding, and the cave is notorious for rubber banding. And I
Yep.
got in probably half an hour after some people, just with how patching was working and all that. And yeah, it like generally even like half an hour in, like when you go into that cave, you're noticing a little something, some stutters, some whatever. So
Right.
so if I mean, that's great to hear it from him because they're seeing the back end, right? They're looking at
Yes.
this back end stuff and seeing what's happening. They're probably seeing the AI ghosts that kept popping up, and they're not there now. So that's huge.
And that is 100% huge, especially if they're leaning towards that it's killed. Because for the last month, it's been okay, it's better. Okay, we see the issue. And so for them to come out now and say, yo, this is looking like it's gone, done, like that is a big step in progression for the server side of
Yes,
stuff.
it is. Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
and
So
it's tough, right? They've pushed back before. Everything's been very much by the letter. Like, hey, we'll start getting some testing at the end of fall. You got a testing weekend right literally the last day of fall before it turned into winter. Steven is a great businessman. I think he has a great vision. On the PR side, Intrepid as a whole is not the best. I think them pushing back another time is going to really, really hurt, especially with this latest wave of hype, which I would say is even the majority of the community that's
yep.
come in since Asmongold has discovered it, since this most recent Lazy Peon video. Everything that's happened in the last, say, 12 months, that majority is going to get very upset, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Whereas the people following the
what do you
game for
think-
the last 3 or 4 years are like, oh, pushback. Okay, this happens.
Listen, I played APOC. I'm used to being abused by Intrepid. That's fine. I've been there. That's totally cool. You know, up until now, the best Ashes of Creation experience was actually at PAX when we got to do arenas and dungeons and stuff.
Right, right. So, what do you guys think about the idea that, Fane, you're kind of talking about it like them not dropping the NDA is a foregone conclusion, but I'm kind of looking at it from the other angle. I'm kind of looking at it like if I were them, if I were in their shoes, if I get this ghost controller situation sorted out so that people can log into the game and play it for 5, 6, 8, 10 consecutive hours and not have rubber banding issues and all that stuff, I'm dropping the NDA. I'm dropping the visual NDA because the hype is going to go through the roof.
But that gets to your second layer, right? And I agree. I honestly do think that in the vast majority of worlds, this NDA gets dropped. The game goes on for the month-long test. I'm just saying, just in case. But the other question that is kind of the next layer of that is, we get the AI controller bug fixed. The game can run, like you said, it can run 10 hours a day, no issue. Is there enough content to show?
Yeah.
Or are people going to be disappointed in the content levels?
Into the lack of content.
And that's where I'm at, because we've spent so many weeks trying to get this AI controller bug fixed that they haven't been able to implement all the content they want. And we don't know what adding in a bunch of content is going to do and further potentially break the game. So here's kind of where and this is a bit of a compromise, and tell me if this happened, how would you guys feel about it? So they dropped the NDA, assuming the controller bug is fixed, everything is running smoothly. They dropped the NDA for the 3-day weekend. Let people in. They have normal node progression. You have to go and like level up a node, and it takes a while. They have a couple sieges during that, and then they seal it back up for a month while they add in a bunch of content. And then they go for the month-long non-NDA, like persistent month-long test. What would you guys think about that as kind of a compromise? Yes, we did give you the NDA drop. You get to, everyone gets to see it, but hey, we want to get content. So like this month long is something that people are actually going to enjoy and be able to stream for a significant amount of time each day.
Me personally, I think I would rather them just push it back because I feel like it's I mean, like in the military, you get assigned for weekend duty, but they made you breakfast. We called them guilt cakes. Like they'd make pancakes. Like it's like nobody actually wants that. We want our weekend back. We want
Right.
the month long. We want so for me, I mean, just my thoughts on it. Again, I get to play the game regardless, so I'm not just some pleb that doesn't get to see it. So I'm sure
Wow,
I have a
throwing
different
shade
opinion
at the plebs.
there. Hey man, hey man. Um, but I think because I just again for me personally, I feel like there's a little bit of a kind of shade thrown. Like, hey, here's 3 days. Don't cry to me. Like, and then you'll get the rest of it with the pushback. It's almost like just bite the bullet. If it needs to be pushed back, push it back. The general population of the community that has been following the game will understand. People are going to be outraged. But guess what? When they drop the NDA, people are going to be outraged anyways. Like there's just
Mhm.
like there's no winning. And so it's just kind of like
Do what's best.
yeah. So
Yeah.
and the reality is we've really seen everything that we've done in test. We've seen via live streams. Roughly everything, right?
Right.
Like now
Right.
it would give an opportunity for content creators to get their B-roll to, do a little bit of content around that. So from a content creator's perspective, yeah, that'd be great. Like that'd be great for you guys to be able to, start adding that stuff into your content. But from like a player perspective who's not already in, maybe following it casually, I'd almost just rather it be pushed back. I think Ashes, once they have everything in where it's enough content, not even necessarily for a month, but at least a week within that month. Um, Once it has enough content there, I think people will look at the game and go, "Oh wow." I mean, kind of like what Xillin did when he was like, "Oh yeah, sure, all this is going to be in there," and he comes back to it and he's like, "Oh shit, okay, there's a little bit going on here."
Yeah. Mhm.
So I kind of just want the hammer to drop and everybody see everything for that month long rather than just like this weird little teaser. But I see
Super.
that.
How dare you? How I've been streaming this wiki for 14 months. Give me a game to stream. I can't theory craft the wiki anymore.
Hey,
Yeah,
guess
no
what?
kidding,
I
right?
have been watching like 10 different people stream the wiki for the last 14 months. All right.
Yep.
Don't tell
Yep.
me about it.
If they
Well, here-
monetize that website, I'd be worth so much money to them. I can't.
So here's the saving grace that I can offer both of you. They're not going to do that. And the reason is because you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube.
Yep.
Like once you drop the visual NDA, it's done. What if I make 4 videos on during that weekend? Do I have to take my videos down after that? That doesn't make any sense. What about people who stream it and then have
Watermark.
Yeah, but
I understand that they can watermark it, but you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. Like
No,
it's
I
past
agree.
that
No.
point.
I
No,
Yeah.
as I said,
Uh,
my big concern is just like if you do a month long right now, people are gonna play for 3 days and then be like, well, I don't have anything else to do in this game, and be like, well, the game's not ready yet. Like, why are they doing a month long test when there's no content in the game? And that's my concern.
Well, dropping the visual NDA is not allowing people who aren't already involved in playing to come in. So those people aren't going to see it. It's going to be the streamers and the content creators who we're all like chomping at the bit, like Fane, like
Yeah.
let me make some real content. And it's
Let
like,
me do
well, what if there's no content? Yeah. And believe me, I understand. So here's my counterpoint to what you guys are saying, because to some degree, I do agree with you. However, they have steadily even throughout the last month, they keep just going, okay, well, we're gonna give you passives. Now they haven't done passives, but let's say that it's on the test on Friday, like it's supposed to be. Like it's not that they haven't developed passives; it's that passives are locked right now. We can't. So who knows how much content they have that's
Mhm.
developed, fleshed out, and ready to go, or at least 80% of the way there. That's just locked behind this build right now. And so what if they unlock the game on July 9th and the controller issue is fixed, The nodes work, 80% of the way they're supposed to. The passives are there. The crafting trees are better. There's several dungeons to go do. They've already said they're going to do 4 siege tests per day. So there's 4 siege tests to go do, every day. You could stream those. Those will be a big hit. I actually think that with just a little bit, they don't have to put a whole lot of content more than what's there. Just a little bit more to because you got to think about if I had to actually pick where to spend my skill points because I had to choose between the passives and the class skill, like that already opens up theory crafting realm. And so people are already going to be going, oh, this passive is better than that passive and like all that stuff. So they just need just the tiniest little bit. And my guess is it's already ready. They're just trying to get it where everybody can log in and the servers don't degrade over time.
Well, and that's the biggest thing is as well, if they can, assuming that control bug is fixed today, if they can start adding in some of that content tomorrow and Friday, and they can get this content in without re-breaking the servers, then we might be in a good position. The other thing to think about, right, is everything's accelerated right now. If you cut back on how much EXP you're getting, leveling up nodes, all of that, there's a lot more to work for. The other thing is if they can get the crafting ready, that is a huge time sink, right? So instead of just us getting 1 million gold and having to buy all this top end gear for 50,000 a piece, if you actually have to earn it suddenly, and then you can do that on each class. So now let's go back to, you're talking about the content they have ready to plug in. Do you think they have Ranger and Fighter more or less ready to go? Because those are the two, like Fighter and Ranger aren't that hard to flesh out, right? They should have some basic ideas. There's not like summons or NPCs or anything like that.
Right. I mean, it seems like they had Ranger ready to go and then the bows bugged out. So I would say Ranger for sure, as long as they can fix whatever's wrong with the bows. Fighter, I don't have a clue.
I think they said they were supposed to have Fighter, right? Fighter and Ranger were supposed to be A1, and then it was Bard, Summoner, and Rogue that they were having issues with, and they said expect that a little bit later into A2.
Into A2, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, bro. There's some not really theory crafting, but I've heard a couple of times a theory floating around that some of the tank abilities might actually be fighter abilities. And that what we see, like the current version of tank, like the Lacerate, I think was one specifically that made more sense to be on a warrior than necessarily on a tank. But that could just be a way of testing. All of the classes are placeholder, so I'm not putting any money down that anything that we see now is actually going to be on launch. But I definitely could see them throwing Fighter into the mix, maybe not right as official Alpha 1 actually drops, which is supposed to be this visual NDA drop. Maybe like a month or two later with some spot testing going on, behind the scenes, and then whenever they do their next official, like, hey, here's another weekend test that you guys can stream, whatever, then then it might show up in that. But I really think this is probably more of a hope than think, but I really hope that Ranger is there. I mean, the bow issue has been there since before people bought into A1 on this most recent rotation. So, and the bow just existed there. I'm surprised it actually made it into the iteration that people had recently made it into. So I really hope that Ranger's going to be there, because getting your healing type mechanics for a class ironed out, getting your melee type ability mechanics ironed out, and getting your range type mechanics ironed out, I think are really important. And so I would even say that Ranger should have been there with the other 3 classes that we currently have.
Okay. So now we know Super wants to go Ranger Bard instead of Tank Bard. Interesting.
Ranger
interesting.
Bard.
Interesting.
So now what I was gonna say, well, first of all, Bow Singer sounds awesome. Ranger Bard. But what I was going to say is now let's move forward and talk about further progression. So we kind of got a hint in the AMA that Steven was thinking A1 would come to an end in fall, and we'd be getting into A2 sometime fall by the end of this year. You guys see that happening?
100%. I have my guess officially. So within Axiom, we do have some guesses as like release date, A2 date. I honestly think that my A2 date is late November, early December. I think that we'll have enough server stability, because A1 is just to make sure the servers don't explode, right? They're back in the studio. They're being more efficient. And I honestly think, to kind of iterate upon Xillin's earlier comment, I do think that there's a lot of content that's just sitting and that's ready for plug and play. You know, if you think that environments aren't created, Bacon is crushing it on environments. They are hiring a quest designer, but that's probably more for the actual finished product, polished quest narrative, etc. I think there's a lot of content that they're just ready to put into the game and pray that the game doesn't break.
Quest is like late A2, early B1. Like
Right.
Yeah.
that's something that's
Yeah.
super pertinent right now.
No, basic
Well,
quest
what's
is
really
fine. I'll go
crazy
kill
is-
animated armors.
Fane, I think you're the only person I've ever seen that I've talked to that's like, you know, behind the scenes, that's been involved in the alphas, that knows what's going on, that kind of agrees with me. Almost everybody I know thinks that we're not going to be in A2 until, you know, Q1 or Q2 of the next year. And so I'm wondering if you agree with me on this. By my own like internal, totally not a developer brain that I got going on by my timeline, if they start A2 by end of November, we could be looking at a release of this game by Q4 of next year.
Yeah, I think that's on the early side for sure.
Yeah.
I think quarter four,
that's my earliest.
that is early to. I have spring. I actually have. I think I get my official guess was February 18th of 2023. I don't know why I
Wait,
picked that
what?
out. I think it was.
When
I think
did you
Bardic
update
picked the
yours?
same.
Yeah,
I think
'cause I'm
Bardic
right
picked
there.
that, and then I prices righted
Fucker.
him. I went 1 minute
Fucker.
Okay,
past.
nice.
Because
nice.
when in doubt, prices right somebody. But
Get
I 100%
perpetuity on
agree.
your side.
And
Yeah.
when people keep saying we're 4 years out, we're 5 years out, and you get all this toxicity, especially in like their official streams or the AMAs, I think what they don't understand is game development is a 6 to 7 year iterative process. For a game like this, I would expect it to take even longer, but I think we're still very much on that track of 6 to 7 years, which would put us right about that timeline that I think you drilled the timeline, Xillin. I think you're 100% on it. And even though they've had setbacks, they also are developing this game in a way that is very fast in terms of they're not waiting to build the thing and then build another thing on top of it. We're building our assets, we're building our world, we can plug them in. And I think that's going to allow us to really get there a lot faster.
And we saw that with Siege. I mean, that was something put up on one of the previous shows, was the way that they integrated Siege was its own server at first. Then we had a Friday test where they integrated the Siege server into the regular server that we had been testing. It crashed, it blew up, but then the next test it was working fine. And so what I mean, exactly what Xillin was saying, Fane was echoing. I mean, I think there are just a bunch of different iterations of the game with all of these different, you know, pieces of, you know, content, builds, all this different stuff that they're working on individually. And then when the time comes, it's like, boom, integrate, boom, integrate, boom, integrate. And so once the content really starts flowing, I definitely could see that timeline working out. Now, of course, you know, in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, I need to account for COVID 2022 and all these different random pushbacks. But I really do think, especially with the increased employees, all the different people working on the game coming in, I think we're at the cusp of this game just taking off and there being a ton of content just starting to roll in.
And I don't want to just sit here and chime in and be like, yeah, me too. But yeah, I also agree with you guys. And here's why. I think the easiest transition is A1 to A2. I think because of that, all you need is stable servers, right? The difference between A1 and A2 is persistence. So as long as you have stable servers, you can go to persistent servers, you can go to A2, and you can get a huge influx of players to see what else breaks, of course. But then you can start doing content iterations and content testing. Because what I think is going to take a huge amount of time is balance. And I'm not talking about balance between like classes. I'm talking about balance between like economy, crafting, all these huge interconnected systems, getting the right feel for how long it takes to raise up a metro and then bring it down so you can actually see the world shift around you. That is going to take a lot of time. So I think I agree with you. I think we will be getting into A2 fairly soon. And then you'll see like, yeah, between A2 and the betas, when you're ready to like let more people see it, more people in, and really start to test these end game systems, it's gonna take a decent chunk of time.
So
Well-
one thing about what you just said there that's very crucial to this specific game and the way that they're doing this development with this open development and these huge numbers of alpha players and even the visual NDA, a lot of these games, they release the game and then they see how the players break it and then they try to balance it. Whereas we're going to have a situation where in Alpha 2, there's going to be thousands of people playing this game. And so they're going to get to see all the crazy ways in which the players break the game, all the ways that they figure out how to game the system, how to manipulate it to find the meta or whatever. And they'll be able to do all that balancing as we go along. So that by the time we get, it's almost like early access. That's what these early access games on Steam do. They take feedback from the players and go, oh yeah, that's overpowered. Let's pull that back or whatever. And we're going to get to see that in real time with this game. I think it's going to kind of speed up the development a little bit.
The difference between early access and the alpha or betas or whatever is early access means there's not going to be a wipe. Whereas this game, there will be a wipe. And I think it's super important that they're phrasing it like this because a sandbox game needs to come out of the box polished. Otherwise, like they don't have time like Final Fantasy to go and fix all this stuff and then people will come back to it. If they don't launch successfully and have healthy server populations, which I'm sure if you've watched my YouTube videos, I talk about healthy server populations like nonstop. But if they don't have this and people like things start dying off, the game itself will die. You can't sit there and kind of just like keep chugging along, fixing things until people come back. You need to have enough of a population playing the game and enjoying the game to keep it alive. Otherwise, in a player-driven content game, unfortunately, it falls off pretty quick.
Well, especially if you merge servers the way that they've kind of hinted at merging servers. Even when you merge these servers, that lower population server is going to see a huge percentage of drop off, I think, because in their mind, they have to start over anyway. They're not going to want to just start up again in somebody else's world.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope that they don't come to a situation where they have to start merging servers. Like that's never good for a game. And I think it's even worse for this type of game. So let's hope they never get to that.
I do think people do need to go into this game realizing this is not necessarily a straight theme park MMO. Half the fun might be actually starting over too. And I'm not saying being forced to start over is a good thing, but I think there's a lot of replayability here. I think, 2 years down the road, there might be a lot of fun getting together with some of your the friends that you've created and be like, we want to start on a new server. Like if they're releasing a new server, we're all going to head over there.
What do you guys think about an alternative rule set server that just resets every 6 months or every year or something?
We've talked about this a little bit, but I'm all for it, but not for a little while, and not with the most up to date content. What I would say is that would be something that releases like 2 years down the line after we've gotten a couple expansions, new content updates, and that alternate rule set server launches. But with basically a vanilla server. Like you don't get all the most up-to-date content if you're going to play on this server.
Right.
You call it the PTR server. And it's not the newest content, but it could be changes. And so it's like, hey, PTR's up, it's going to be up for 6 months. We're implementing some new combat, techniques or, different little minor changes, but a bunch of them. And people can go there, try something new. It's not just for the purpose of testing, but then it also plays into if people want to have that server that wipes and kind of, play around with that a little bit.
You combine the idea of an alternative rule set server with also getting public testing going.
Yeah.
So you're doing both at the same time. That's an interesting concept. I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
So just backtracking real quick to the release date timeline stuff. I personally am a little bit further out on the actual release of the game. I'm thinking Q3, Q4 of 2023 for the exact reason that Bard brought up. I think we're going to see a huge influx of content coming in, but then once we hit the node balancing stage, once we hit the economy balancing stage, then on top of that, because we have to balance that for what it is at a base level, and then you introduce the classes. And okay, now we need to rebalance that. And then you introduce guild perks or whatever order they do it in. Okay, now we need to rebalance that. I think the train's going to go full speed ahead and then just almost come to a full stop and just kind of slowly plug along a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that phase, probably somewhere around B1, is going to really slow down a little bit. I think that's going to push release back. I mean, not to anything unreasonable. I mean, Q3, Q4 2023, I think is reasonable, but I think it's definitely going to slow things up a little bit. And not because they're not working on it, but because that content just takes time to balance.
I think the biggest thing that's going to take time to balance is the crafting and the economics. And we know they have hired a professional economist who is committed to doing 6 months of work prior to release and then sometime after release as well. But basically, like, you need a lot of players playing the game at end game to figure out this economic balance. And if the economy is broken, this game won't work. Like, because the economy drives your decisions in game, right? Progression is
Yeah.
based on economy, unlocking new content, and like a lot of that is going to be based around making gold, crafting gear, and how everything is interconnected. So that, yeah, I kind of agree. I think that specifically is going to take more time than anything else.
But do you think that they're trying to shoot for like a living economy where things change in price, where because they've already talked about this concept where if you're in the snow area and you get a hunting trophy like an Arctic wolf pelt, you can sell that locally for 10 gold. But if you gather those up and send them to a caravan on the other side of the world, those are actually worth 70 gold over there. And being able to balance what those things sell for both locally and outside of your zone of influence, do you think that they could balance the economy that way and do it live post launch?
I think trying to get that changing system balanced is what's going to take time. I think it's going to be too, like, if you don't have that balance, there's going to be some very obvious metas that form where you know exactly how to make as much money as you can, and possibly even some potential like exploit systems in where you can drive prices up and then buy things, or like, it just seems like in a fluctuating, very realistic economy, like literally people make entire professions out of this, right? In the real world. And you're trying to duplicate this in game. It's gonna be difficult. And I think they're going for that changing thing, but that's actually what's going to take the time to balance.
Well, I think that the balancing happens. I mean, if it's a true economy, the balancing happens with time. The balancing happens with supply, demand. The balancing happens with, obviously, if one person's able to go to all of these different economic nodes, hit up the auction house, buy everything, take it back to theirs, and post it for a ridiculous price. Like, I mean, the reality is that's also real world. I mean, that is economics. I mean, that is something that is a thing. And so it's just, I think it comes down to how much. And I was trying to look for it, and I'll probably have to dig a little bit deeper, but I could have swore Steven actually said something to about this. Basically saying that they would step in if they needed to, if there was too much market manipulation going on. But I do think, especially at the beginning of the game, I mean, that's half the fun of being at the start of a game, is you get in and that first ore that you mine is worth 500 times the actual amount it should be worth because you're the first person to mine it, or something like that. So it's it'll be interesting, but I think they're willing to step in if they need to. But I think given time, the economy will. I'm putting a lot of faith in the internet here. I don't typically do, but I think with a little bit of time, it will balance out a little bit. And so, I mean, that's something. I mean, it's interesting that the economist is coming in 6 months prior to launch, because I think that's something that we might need to have a little bit more testing on than 6 months. So we'll see.
You can also make dynamic economies, right? You can code that into the game. And I've been really racking my brain to remember what game this was, but the example that they had always given was, okay, you have a NPC that will buy that turnip for 5 gold. Well, the NPC also recognizes that in the last 2 days, 300 turnips have been farmed. So now the turnip price is only 4 gold. And based on the actual amount of that item floating in the economy versus how much is potentially gathered every single day, the NPCs, you can set them up to scale automatically. Now, player to player economy, obviously that's a little bit different, but that tends to work itself out in a pretty reasonable way.
Yeah, you leave
It's
that alone, I
simply
would think.
if I don't have the gold, I can't buy the thing. So you need to reduce the price to the top price that someone is willing to pay for that. Those things tend to work themselves out relatively naturally. And I think that this game is designed with enough gold sinks. You're not going to see too many gold barons. And if you do see them early on, great. You guys are going to be the first economic node mayors for the next 30 days, and it costs you a lot of gold.
Right. So have any of you guys played EVE Online?
I have, yes.
No?
Slightly.
Slightly. Okay, so there's a couple of things that I have been running through my mind listening to you guys talk about this. Number one, that company, I can't remember the name of the company that runs that company, but runs that game. But they have an economist that works for them. That's a full time. That's what they have an economist that works there. But the second thing, and I find this just fascinating, and I really wish more MMOs would do this. Their response to people finding a meta or finding even an exploit or a loophole is jolly good show.
Yeah.
Like let it work itself out. And because the more you try to put your thumb down on a system like this, a group of people like this, the more they're going to rebel against it, the more they're going to find more ways. And even though I agree with Truth Eternal in the comments that, you know, maybe this game may not be really high up on metas, you may not have a lot of metas, there still will be some metas, and people will always find the meta. So it's like, stop trying to stop people from finding the damn meta and just make your game and be done with it. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Let the meta guys go do the meta thing. They're going to anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, go ahead, guys.
I mean, even if it's a self-perceived meta, right? Like, it doesn't matter if that's the actual meta. If that's the community, if that is the community agreed upon meta, then that is the meta. I mean, that's the thing about it, is it can be the meta and still not actually be the meta. Now we have the power of the internet and millions of minds working towards finding the actual meta. So it's usually actually found, like what you're saying. So, I mean, just, a middle ground there between what Truth is saying and what you're saying there, Xillin, like, is, yes, there's always a meta. And I would say 99, times out of 100 that it's going to be found, but I don't think it's going to be as clear in Ashes. It's going to take a lot more work than people are used to. And so, but one of the approaches that I really like, I think I've said this on stream before. I'm going to build Blizzard up here real quick, and I'll be sure to kick them down at some point. And I know a lot of people hate it, but I like their approach to the D3 meta. They don't sit there and go, oh, this is, they're not as concerned with people finding the meta because they know that they're going to within Diablo 3. They're just like, okay, let's just make sure the meta's not too overpowered. And then the next season we'll introduce a class buff to another class, and that will shift the meta in that favor, or it'll switch up the group meta or the duo meta or something like that.
I think
and so it's not about like preventing a meta. It's about more being in control of what the meta could potentially be.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing for me, is make sure that the meta isn't so obvious that something is just overpowered and you literally just can't play anything else because it's just that powerful, right? There needs to be some margins there where the meta isn't that much greater than something that isn't the meta. I mean, metas are going to form, and we talked about this last week, I believe, or 2 weeks ago, about how it's going to be hard to form a meta in Ashes because nodes literally
how regional the game's going to be.
Well, how regional, and then also like each server is different, right? You might have certain best in slot items locked behind a certain tier 6 node, and that's not on your server. So you have to make do with whatever your server has to make the most powerful character you have. But making sure there isn't a build that is just straight broken is super important, because people stop playing at that point if they feel like it doesn't. This is the only option, or there's only 4 options, right? Like there's one for each DPS class or each role within the game. Each of the Trinity has like 1 or 2 options. At that point, it's like, oh shit, I don't really want to play this anymore.
Well, and
Right,
going back to
right.
kind of an economic meta, the concept that Xillin say is CCP is who runs
Yes,
Eve.
yes.
I saw
I
that.
thought
that,
that,
and
and
I
I
was,
went,
I was
no,
like, I
that's the
knew it was
Chinese
up here. I knew
Communist
this one. Yeah, the Chinese Communist Party runs Eve, but not quashing
Of course, they
these
do.
kind of meta ways of making gold and embracing the where somebody found a gap in the market or a way to manipulate the market, right? Things like that can be great because those will shift pretty consistently. If you kind of put the ban hammer down on all those unique little things, then it just becomes there still is a meta. There's still a meta. It's just that the meta is this is the best ore to farm for your gold per minute. This is the best fish to get for your meta per minute, for your gold per minute. And you just sit there and then you're still grinding gold. It just feels extremely boring.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, and it's the idea. I know I've said it a lot in balancing discussions that I've had with people in Virtue, and it when it comes to balancing, I'd rather them lift up the bottom than knock the top down, because
Yep.
the top is usually the fun thing to play. Like, and so let's make everything else more fun to play rather than knocking down the top. Now, to what Bard is saying, if it's broken, absolutely, it needs the nerf hammer thrown at it. If it's broken, it's too OP, absolutely. So, I mean, there's a sliding scale there of what it needs to be within. And I think with them having the secondary class, and then even the augments within that, they have room to play with. They can allow a rogue mage fire to be meta, but the rogue mage ice isn't. And and that's okay. Like I really believe as a gamer that that's okay to make that decision, to allow that to exist for a little bit, and then if you want to mix it up, then throw something in that mixes it up a little bit, as long as nothing's just ridiculously overpowered. And you can't do this whole comparing the top to the bottom thing, because I feel like where a lot of games go wrong is they try to compare the top to the bottom when they need to compare like the top 10. They need to make sure that those are like the top 10 are within a reasonable range of each other, then the mid 10 and then the bottom 10. Because if you do bottom to top, it's never going to be balanced, and you're constantly going to be either knocking people down or boosting people up. Allow there to be a weaker class, allow there to be a stronger class. And the reality is, without DPS meters, not a lot of people are going to know that much. So,
Wow.
100%.
The real question is, are they going to be able to successfully pull off DPS meters? At this point, I don't want to argue whether DPS meters should be in the game or not.
yes.
I don't. Shut up. Don't bring this up. It doesn't matter. They are going for no DPS meters. So the question is, can they actually pull that off? That's the question, right? Because of, between third-party systems and however they end up doing it, it seems like players always find a fucking way. And it's like, all right, I mean, yeah. So
well, these kids are gonna have to learn how to do it like when we were growing up playing MMOs. I'm a rogue kind of spec this way with these social organizations and this. Well, I'm a rogue spec this other way. Great. Let's find a tank buddy of ours and we each beat on him for 30 seconds. Who did more damage? You go this very base route that isn't necessarily denying you the knowledge of a meta, denying you the knowledge of like your DPS, but it is going to make it a hard process.
It's making you work for it. If you want to know, if you want to know the information,
everything else in the game.
Yeah. Like literally everything else in the game.
Well, I know
Xillin is biting his tongue.
Well, I mean,
he's just like ready.
I know where Xillin has come from as far as like with the SWOTOR stuff. I mean, does the name Parsec ring a bell to you?
Yeah, and it got changed to Star Parse later on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I stopped before it got changed. But I mean, there was even a time in a recent MMORPG of Star Wars: The Old Republic where, I mean, you had to outsource your DPS meter, and even the first iteration of it, you had to log the entire fight before you can input it, or you had to like do it in between pulls or something like that. But you didn't have like an active DPS meter. And I know we're not going into the conversation about it. Like I'm more just kind of talking about it in general, not the opinion side of it. So I mean, though I personally would want them, I mean, I think it's fine with or without. I mean, I get what they're going for without having it. I kind of respect it, but I mean, to what Fane says, people are going to figure it out anyways. So
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but it's going to be
I
harder,
just think
right?
rating's going to suck without it. Like they can't make good, high quality, really tight rating without DPS meters. It's an actual impossibility. So without it, then whatever. Like your example of beating on the tank for 30 seconds to get your time to kill. Well, I know lots of people that can parse in the top 5% of their class in Star Wars: The Old Republic if they beat on a dummy, but you put them in a fight and they suck ass and they can't do anything. So without a real time specific DPS meter, I think rating is going to suck. It's not going to be tight. It's going to be very loose. We're going to have many times over the DPS required to kill the boss. It's going to be just, can you do the mechanics? And there's not going to be like a burst mechanic where it takes all 5 or 8 or how many ever DPS in your group operating at the most maximum level in order to pass that DPS check. And that sucks for me because I'm a hardcore raider and that I enjoyed that aspect of it. But if you're not going to have really tight raids, who gives a crap about DPS?
Well,
and
but what about
That's-
the raid scaling? I mean, the raids are going to scale as you
yeah,
go
they're going to
through.
get more difficult, but they're not going to be tight. Like I've never seen an MMO that doesn't have DPS meters. I've actually never seen an action combat MMO that has tight rating. It's all very loose.
Yeah.
Everything is, there's lots of reses. You can raise your guy 5,000 times in a fight. And, like I said, the maximum DPS output of the group is usually 2 or 3 times higher than it is to beat the enraged timer and all those sorts of things because you can't measure your DPS. So you have to keep it loose like that.
And I on it, so like this maybe I am wrong here, but I kind of think Steven isn't necessarily going for that hardcore. So what I
No,
call
he's
like
not.
mythic rating within World of Warcraft is a mini game within the game. I love
Mhm.
mythic. I love it. I love what you're talking about. That min-maxing,
Right.
figuring out. Like I love it. I don't think this game is going for that. With the open world
agree.
dungeons and all of that, like you're more looking for efficiency. You're looking to get clear content quickly, get as much loot as you can, and get back to safety. Like that to me is the idea of the game. And like you're sitting there farming this raid, and you're constantly like, okay, when is someone going to figure out how long we've been down here, how much we have on us, and going to come after us? Like, so there's all like, I think the intrigue of this game is a lot more than that. And they may have a few that like we got that little hint in the AMA about divine nodes potentially having some kind of labyrinth under them with the hardest PvE
Right.
content in it. We still don't know what that's going to be. We don't know if there's going to be PvP available down there. And it's possible they will add in something like that, but it just doesn't seem like that's what they're trying to do with this game.
I agree with you. So as I started to research this game and look into it and look into all the systems and look into the things that they wanted to do, and all that stuff, I started going, okay, rating's not going to be like it's going to be, the game's going to have rating, but it's not going to have rating in the way that I want it or not even necessarily want it, just kind of am used to or expecting it.
Yes.
And so I started getting a little bit disappointed. And then I kind of had like an epiphany moment. This was maybe 4 or 5 months ago where I started to realize that even though there was no rating or not rating like I wanted, I still desperately wanted to play this game and I was excited to play this game. And I was thinking about all the different things I'm going to be doing in game that don't have anything to do with rating. And it made me realize that rating, and in particular, like the hardcore rating and these instanced PvPs, the arena style and the battleground style that they have and all that stuff is stand-in for real content. That is, we don't want to have to think about what to give our players to do at in-game to keep them logging in and playing every day, and think about all these crazy systems that Steven has clearly spent a very long time considering and trying to come up with all the different ways it might work and might not work. And, coming up with all this stuff, they don't want to do that work. So they're like, hey, let's put some more health on this boss, and that's in-game. I think it's actually a stand-in for real content. And so I actually feel like even though I'm expecting real rating, I'm used to real rating, when the game launches, you're going to be like, I don't have time to go log in on every Wednesday night, 8:00 to do my raid because my node's being sieged.
Yes.
Because that caravan needs to be protected. Because my node needs 5,000 more wood to level up, whatever it is. That's real content.
And that's the other thing too is he's not like, if you want that experience of hardcore raiding,
Go play WoW.
Steven doesn't need to make a game for that. The game's already there.
Mhm.
WoW does it
Yeah.
really well. I'm like,
Yes,
most
they
of the
do.
time,
Yeah.
obviously. SWOTAR has pretty good PvE hardcore raids. I haven't played much Final Fantasy or much ESO. I played a little ESO on launch, but both I know both of those games have amazing end game rating. If players want that, that's what they'll go play. I
Yep.
think people need to drop their expectations or the projections of what they're used to and what they want in a game, and just be like, this is the way this game is going to be. Like, honestly, you just don't really need DPS meters when everything is so fluid, when a lot of your content is based around like PvP and trying to, guard yourself against other people coming in, and like just the amount of stuff that's going on. Like, it's a DPS meter isn't going to give you that much. Like, yeah, maybe you have a squad holding back on the boss you're fighting to keep the enemies at bay, right? Well, that's now suddenly their DPS isn't as good, or like there's so many ways that like you may end up not doing optimal DPS because you're helping the group or the guild in some other way.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and
I agree.
incentivizes that community, guild first, node first, whatever, approach you have to it, that I'm doing this for my guild. I'm doing this for my node. And that's something that's been lost over the years. And you see it in those games like WoW and SWOTOR, where it's people are just loot hungry. You know what I mean? And there's so
Yep.
much more to a good game than just loot drops. And like, yes, that is how your representation of yourself being your character in the game, that's how you make it more powerful. But the reality is, it even goes to what Bard was saying about the Ashes content creator community. As the community grows, as the guild grows, everybody within it grows. You might not be a part of the team that gets the first kill, but if you're in a good guild, you will eventually get the kill. And it will, what benefits the guild should benefit everybody within it. Now you're going to have your asshole GMs, you're going to have your asshole guilds where it's just, where it's just, me and my 20 friends, that's it. Those are the only people getting loot. The rest of you are here to serve us, bow to me. But having and the realization that you had, Xillin, was the exact same. I was smirking over here because I'm like, dude, him and I are just like on the same wavelength from where we came to what we're expecting out of this. And the reality is exactly what you said. But it's not going to be those other games. And so I had to temper my expectations a little bit and go, okay, Ashes is not my typical MMORPG. But you know what the reality I came to is I don't enjoy playing the typical MMORPG anymore.
Yeah.
Preach.
So I'm going to go ahead and get out of my own head, get out of my own way, allow myself to experience something new, and hopefully find enjoyment in it, because everything about the game sounds exciting. So just because the PvE content isn't the exact same way that I've experienced it in the past, am I going to allow myself to not have fun in a game that is potentially going to be the best game I've ever played? Like, so it's just, it's rearranging the way that you typically look at PvE content. And that doesn't mean you don't give feedback. That doesn't mean you don't try to, tool it in a direction that you would prefer. But the reality is Steven already has his vision. And, we're here to kind of make sure that all of that is working well. We're not necessarily here to change his vision. For example, New World, they changed their vision. And so I don't see that happening with Ashes. And so it's actually nice. I mean, I've been in a lot of different alpha testing. It's nice to know that I'm only giving feedback on the systems that exist and how they are, and not necessarily what they should be reiterated to completely. I'm not giving feedback on an overhaul. I'm giving feedback on what the system is. And from a testing perspective, and somebody who's given feedback about overhaul stuff for the vast majority of his testing experience, it's actually really nice to go, oh, this is just what's intended. Okay, here's some feedback on this. Here's some pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
Take it as you will and walk away. And just try to accept and try to trust and know that, okay, hopefully the game goes in a good direction. And you got to get out of your own way sometimes.
Yep. That's exactly right.
And I think there's to this. this is kind of a perfect segue into another topic. I think there's a lot of projection of what people want from the game versus
Yeah.
what the game is. So they have
Right.
this idea of what the game is going to be, and they go around like saying that. And so we actually, Thane and I ran into this video where a content
Oh,
creator was
no.
just straight up giving misinformation. He literally just like the entire video was just not true. I've never heard the information before in my life.
Hold on. Was this a podcast with like 3 guys and there was
No.
one guy that was just like going nuts?
No.
Okay.
No, I know
okay.
the one you're talking about. And also, yes, this was, I want to lightly. We're not going to link the video because we don't want to give this thing views.
Yeah.
We don't want it to spit up in the algorithm. This video literally talked about racial currency and how each node, when a race influences it, they took the idea where a race influences it, the architecture will change, right? If the Tulnar level up a node, then it's Tulnar architecture because people want that question mark.
Just say Junior.
But they
Just say
literally
Junior.
said, so okay, Junior. So you've got your Junior node and your Elven node and your human node, and your Kalar node is gonna, their gold is worth, 1.5 of this node, but this is only worth 0.5. So you trade with this node and then this. It doesn't exist. It literally was just somebody thought it would be a cool idea and just projected it onto Ashes and said, "Yep, this is what's happening."
And I guess the question here is, yeah, it was blatantly wrong, and he went on to say a bunch of other just wrong stuff. The video has like 200 and something views. Like, it's not like a
Gross.
small amount. How do we deal with this? How do we as a community deal with something like this? Because Fane and I both went on and were like, I was very blunt. I was just like, this information is just wrong. And he didn't respond to me. And Fane was like, racial currencies? I don't think that's true. ... The guy goes back to him and is like, it hasn't been talked about much, but it's on the wiki. And Fane's like, can I get a link, please?
Link, because let me tell you, as someone who spent a shit ton of time on that wiki, no, wrong.
There.
And
It
I
doesn't
guess-
exist.
Yeah, I guess the question is, how do we deal with this as a community, right? Because we want to remain positive. We want to encourage smaller content creators. We want to be an uplifting community, and we don't want to just go there and flame the person, right? But how do we as a community bring this up and be like, hey, man, like, you really take this video down? It's not right. I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's
So-
bad.
This is I'm not going to go into detail, but this even translates to real world misinformation. It's not just related to games. You see this in every aspect of real life as well. And it's hard because it's one of those things where it's, if somebody just feels like they're in the right and they feel like they know and they're not open to feedback, they're not open to it, my approach to those people is, I'm not going to waste my breath. I'm not going to listen, you have decided the path that you are going to walk down. What I say is not going to change that. Now, it's situational. If it's a really, really big content creator that has a lot of influence, 200 views, not a lot of influence. If Asmongold is out there or any other big streamer is out there just spreading misinformation, that's a problem. And I think even when it gets to that level, that requires like Margaret or Steven or Toast stepping in and coming up and saying. And so I think at different levels, you have different approaches. And so the bottom level, I think what you guys did is fine. Hey, I don't think this is right. Or even just being blunt about it. Hey, this is incorrect. And how they respond to that, then you adjust how you respond to their response. And obviously the approach should always be from a, educate standpoint. If you just start throwing emotional bullshit out there, then it just turns into an argument that nobody is able to actually have their mind changed about anything. But if you, present information like, hey, I have scoured the wiki for months. So if you could post me a link, I haven't seen anything associated to this. So maybe I missed something. Act like you're the idiot in the situation. You'd be surprised what people.
That's easy for me.
Yeah, you'd be surprised what people are willing to budge on when you kind of approach the conversation like, hey, I'm the dumbass. You're not the dumbass. I'm the dumbass. Can you help me? Help me help you help me. Like, And it's a little manipulative, but I mean, at the same time, it allows the other person to feel like they kind of have the leg up. It puts them in a position where it's like, oh, I'm going to educate this person. I'm going to do this. And then when they go look and they go, oh shit, oh, actually, I don't have a link. So then right then and there, oh, I don't have time to give you a link. Okay, well, they're a piece of shit. They're not, their mind's not going to be changed anyways. Don't waste your breath. And then, but if they come back and go, oh shit, you know what? I think I misspoke there. And they self-realize, then that's somebody you can work with. That's somebody you can talk to. That's somebody you can, help. Hey, let's make sure we're not just putting out random bullshit. Let's make sure it's fact-based in some way.
And I will say this: I have spent so much time on the wiki. I feel like I am a pretty knowledgeable person about this game. I've been wrong. I've been wrong before, and I want to know immediately. Like, let me know. Like, if you say, "Hey, something is wrong," I'm gonna immediately hop on the wiki, look for like the reference and all that. And if I can't find it, or I find something contradictory, I'm like, "Oh fuck, yeah, time to stop doing this." Right? It's and that's something you have to look at as a content creator. No one's perfect, right? There's nothing wrong with not being perfect and getting something wrong. Just be willing to accept it and get on top of it, own your mistake and fix it.
Right. I've had to start a couple of videos with, okay, so my yesterday's video, I got this thing way wrong. So just to clarify, this is how I was wrong. And I'm with you guys 100%. As long as you're willing to accept what, that you got it wrong and fix it. Yeah, that's fine.
So what do you think that our responsibility is? Or do we even have? I guess that's the primary question. Do we have responsibility as content creators that are trying to really push this game up? Right? We are trying to create reasonable expectations and reasonable hype and information about it. Do we have a responsibility when we see misinformation out there? Because, this was a very small YouTuber. This was a one-off incident. I've also seen larger streamers share misinformation on their stream about Ashes of Creation. Is there a responsibility there?
I don't think that we necessarily have a responsibility. I mean, what can I would say that Intrepid Studios has a responsibility.
Yeah.
If they want to stop the misinformation that's getting out there. But what can we do? We're just people on the internet just like them.
That's I mean, the thing is you can share timestamps. So I think, and this will be easier, especially so when we hear back on official content creator, and I'm hoping all three of us here who applied for it get it. At that point, we will have a liaison, right? A community person who's in charge of handling communication between the official content creators and the rest of Intrepid. I would hope that they encourage us to, hey, if there's anything going on that's you think is unhealthy for the community, whether that's misinformation, toxicity, whatever, send a timestamp to this person. It's part of their job to get this chained up the line, and then Intrepid can deal with it as they see fit. And I would like to see that happen. And obviously, I think we're all sitting here just twiddling our thumbs, when are we going to hear back? When the fuck are we going to hear back?
At this point, I don't even care if they reject me. Just tell me.
Just tell me.
Just send me the damn email and say your videos are trash. Your opinions suck. We don't like you. And then I can be like, okay, and stop freaking out every time my phone dings and it's that email. So I'm like, what? So yeah, at this point, just tell me. Reject me already.
Here's my biggest issue. The Intrepid stuff is going to my spam folder, and I need to set up a filter that'll put it into its own folder. But I'm literally daily checking. It goes to my promotions folder, but I am daily checking all of my weird spam emails to be oh, did I get it? Did I get it?
I mean, it's funny. They said that they had thousands of applications, and I've been sitting here and I'm like, I know the people at least that are streaming it. I'm very aware of the people that are creating YouTube content. Why do we have thousands of applications? Where is there a large TikTok Ashes of Creation community I don't know about? They're here's me eating a Tide Pod and talking about nodes.
I don't even know how it's the TikTok besides the Vine style of content creation. I don't know what TikTok content creation is. I really don't. And maybe I'm just a boomer in that aspect, but I'm just what in the fuck? To me, TikTok is just a better funded version of Vine. Like
I think that's the only
That's
reason I
what
know
it is.
TikTok is because my girlfriend's 27. Trust
Yeah.
me. I'm aware that TikTok exists.
Well,
It's like Snapchat. I'm aware it exists. I don't know what it is, but I'm
think-
aware it exists.
I think that's exactly what it is they took the like they were like Vines were a huge popular thing, but then they just died. Let's make a platform where it's easier to get your Vines. And like, I will say there are some pretty fucking amazing TikToks that I've seen, but I feel like anytime I watch a streamer like go through awesome TikToks, I'm just like 90% of these are dumb. But but the 10% that are awesome, I'm like, all
pretty
right.
good. Yeah.
All right. I get it. But not
So
not,
you just described YouTube and Twitch
yeah.
and Facebook and every creative platform
That is true. There's a lot of crap out there.
That's it. I'm gonna be the #1 Ashes of Creation TikToker. I don't know anything about it, but that's it. New goal.
You're just
See you later, Twitch. Sorry.
You're just gonna have like this 10-second clip of you going, the boss dying, you going to loot it, and you not getting any loot, and you just sign it off.
I'm gonna turn every mount in the game into one of those like dances. I don't even know how to do.
Well,
the snorts doing a Fortnite dance.
Well, when we talked about it, we talked about doing a reenactment of Old Town Road on a Snorse.
Oh my god!
I want to do that, and I hate the idea so much.
That idea like directly comes like for our generation directly comes from like the what was the video of the history of the world or something like that, where it's all like that kind of stuff being like put together is stuff that I think our generation enjoys. But like if you were to present that to like a Zoomer nowadays, they're just kind of like, that was dumb, the same way that we look at their content. So I think it's just like,
and that's when the Zoomers are our age, they're going to say the same thing about the next generation's comedy and music and all that. That's always the way it has been, except for my dad's music. My dad's music was the best.
Okay. What I do want to say though is I feel like Mel Brooks is timeless. I don't know.
Mel Brooks is timeless.
There are certain things that are timeless.
I have shown some pretty young people some of the Mel Brooks films, and they're like, I went into this thinking it was going to be dumb because of like it looks like shit and there's no CGI.
Yeah.
And then they're like, that was fucking hilarious. So
100%. Yeah.
Some humor is timeless. I mean, you got people like Dave Chappelle, you got people like Robin Williams, you got these people who are literally timeless. Mm-hmm. I mean,
Can't believe Super didn't mention me in that list. Unbelievable. I mean, just truly. Wow. Okay.
I was offended that he didn't mention you. I was waiting for him to mention you.
Thank you, Xillin.
Sorry.
And I was getting offended.
Let me go back. Robin Williams, Dave Chappelle, and itsfane.com.
Perfect. Thank you. Finally, a little recognition around here.
Yeah. So okay. So we won't go too much longer tonight. I do have one more topic I want to key in on here. So Xillin, you said a little thing you kind of mentioned before. Are you trying to be a guild leader? Is that your goal here? You said something about like maybe not.
And just remember, we're going to hold you to this answer. So
you can't change your mind. You cannot change your mind.
Speaking of timeless things, this answer will be timeless. That's it. It's the way it's going to be forever. There's definitely a lot of clamoring, so to speak, for that. My Discord is new people are coming into my Discord every day, and there's quite a few people asking for that. And it's definitely not something that I've completely discounted. I applied for a guild and essentially was not accepted. And so I've kind of looked at some other guilds and I've thought about it, and my biggest problem is I don't even know, like, we don't know enough about this game yet for me to even know what type of guild I would want to start. I don't know. So how am I supposed to start recruiting people for this guild when I don't know if I want to be in an economic node, if I want to be in a military node? I don't know. Do I want to be a raiding guild? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I think that probably in the end, I will end up leading a guild. I just couldn't tell you at all what that's going to look like.
So I guess this was all leading up to this actual question. What do you think a content creator's role should be within a guild? Because
And that's a good question.
yeah, there's a somewhat conflict of interest right there, whether you
Yes,
put your
there
content
is.
first or the guild.
Yes.
A guild in this game is going to be so much work on its own to manage and lead.
And I want to be a mayor too.
Yeah. So, and I'm like, I mean, there's no real, and mayors don't necessarily have to be guild leaders, right? There's nothing saying that. Like, if the guild leader isn't the person that's playing the most, able to most utilize the mayorship, there's nothing wrong with passing that off to, say, a content creator who's on all the time, or your most, the biggest no lifer in your guild. I just like, and there's a lot of content, and this is not singling anyone out, because there's a lot of content creators out there saying they're going to start their own guild or have started their own guild. And I'm just struggling with myself as well, because it's a question for myself. And obviously I've joined Axiom. I'm very happy there. I've found where I am. I'm like, seem to have a good role and grasp on what I can do and help out with the guild. But it's just, it's such a weird thing, content creator versus running a guild of the complexity that Ashes might have to have you have. So I just want to get your input.
I'm right there with you, and I've been thinking about that. You know, when I was running the raiding guild in Star Wars: The Old Republic, go check out my video on how I became the leader of a raiding guild, not knowing what raiding was. It's a good one. When I was leading that guild, you know, we had raiding teams running almost every night of the week. And because I was kind of central to it all, I was basically a tank in every damn group we had. So every night of the week I was doing that. I can't even imagine at this point trying to lead a guild and create content for the game simultaneously, even back then. And that game is a lot less involved. What I was doing is a lot less involved than Ashes will be. I've also, your video earlier this week about content creators streaming the game and how dangerous that's going to be was great. And I was like, oh, I hadn't thought about it from that angle. And oh my God, are we going to be able to stream this? And like, you know, so I have a billion thoughts. I just, more than anything, and this is a little bit of, I don't know, humble brag or just arrogance or whatever. I don't know. But all throughout my life, I've been a leader, and I've been someone that people want to follow for whatever reason. I don't even understand it, but that is for my entire life. And so it's kind of like, if people want somebody to follow and they have chosen me, you know, I'll try to put something together that'll make everybody have a good time. I'll do the best I can with it. And that's kind of where I'm going with it. And, but I do think that if I do start a guild, I'm going to need some really strong officers to manage a good portion.
Well, and that's it, in my opinion, is I think there's value to necessarily having a content creator that is, as you're saying, a leader that people want to follow, but not necessarily the GM. Because there's no conflict of interest there. There's no, you are still a large part of it. I mean, people are obvious. Like, I think you need content creators in guilds like this for like making easy recruiting posts. Like it's so much easier if you have a decent sized content creator in the guild to just be like, hey, we're running low on people. Can you make a hey, we got some openings, and then it's like boom, applications. I think there's a lot of value to a content creator. I just don't necessarily think it's the GM role. And that's my opinion. And maybe people can make it work. Maybe they can't. It's something I have struggled with, and I struggled with it a lot when trying to decide, when trying to pick a guild that was going to be right for me as content creator too. Because, picking a guild as a content creator means a lot more than your average person picking a guild, because leaving can create harsh feelings, right? Um,
Right. Right.
or getting caught in the middle of politics, or joining a guild that has a bad reputation. It means a lot more for a
All
content
those
creator.
things.
Yeah. So it was just, yeah, as I said, I just wanted to get your opinion. I mean, I've talked to Fane and Super about this a lot, and I just kind of wanted to bring it up and see if you had anything that hasn't already run through my brain 50 million times late at night when I'm like, just
Right.
go to bed, damn it, just go to bed.
Well, and
Yeah, the only thing I could even add to that, or give you any solace at all, is you, like, we don't have, okay, most people don't have any idea how efficient people can get. Like, there are people out there that just get unbelievably efficient at stuff.
That's
And
true.
so yeah, those guys might be able to manage doing the content creation and GMing a guild, or being a high level officer in a guild, or something like that.
Yeah.
That's possible. The conflict of interest is something that I've really thought about. Like, and I mentioned that in my most recent video, where you could have some huge streamer that the way you get to be a citizen of the node, the Metropolis node that he controls, is you have to be a high tier subscriber to his stream or his Patreon or Subscribestar or whatever. So there's definitely like some corruption, stuff going on there that's a little bit hard. But as far as having the time, man, there might be some people out there that are more efficient than the four of us combined that can do it. So
As I said, it's not I don't think it's undoable. It just yeah. And Super, sorry to cut you off there. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's fine. I mean, it's I 2 points here. I mean, it's interesting because what I typically see from the people who are, and this is probably why you've seen this for most of your life. Here, I'm gonna get my PhD in psychology on real quick. Hold on.
Backseat doctor.
Yeah, armchair psychologist here. Is in my experience, and this doesn't always hold true, but again, speaking generally, is some of the best leaders are the people who don't necessarily want it. They're not trying to go for it for power's sake. They're not trying to go for it because they want to be king dingling. Like, they're doing it because they look at it and go, okay, you know what? There's a lot of people here who look to me for whatever fucking reason.
Yep.
and they, whether that be I go and join another guild, they're all going to follow. Whether I create my own guild, they're going to be there and they're going to be in it for the long haul. For whatever reason, they've tied themselves to you. And I don't think that, I mean, that's not a bad attribute to have. I mean, I think
Sure.
it's something that,
Mhm.
I mean, again, not to kick the real world too much here, but I think it's something that we need a little bit more in our real life when it comes to politics. But so I mean, if that was the direction that you went, I mean, honestly, it's a hats off to you if you step up and take that role, because
Yeah.
the reality is most people won't. I mean,
Yeah.
in a similar boat. I mean, starting earlier, it was I needed to do it my way. I mean, 10 years ago, it was, you're going to do it Super's way, or you're going to be out of the guild. That's evolved. That's changed over time with maturity, age, all of that. And I find myself going, you know what? I'd rather be an important cog, but still a cog in the machine,
Yeah.
rather than the person necessarily operating it. I'd rather be impactful in a different way. And so if you're somebody who's, able to, recognize that other people are looking to you and go, okay, this is going to impact my social life. This is going to impact my relationships outside of the game. This is going to impact all these different things. But I want to be there for my friends. I want to do these things for them. Honestly, I mean, hats off to you if that's the direction you go. And if not, even if you join another guild or whatever, I mean, it's the reality is what I feel more with Ashes of Creation than I felt with any game before is play the way you want to play. And that includes all of the logistics stuff outside of the game. That includes, everything you're doing in the game. And so if you want to, burn yourself stupid and do the content creation and do the GM and the mayor stuff and the diplomacy and all that, and you want to run the dictator guild, all right, good luck. But it's different. I think there are a lot of positions within a guild to have an impact, and even just your voice can be impactful. You don't have to be an officer within a guild to be impactful.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just, yeah. I just wanted to say, like I said, armchair psychologist. I don't.
Well,
The short amount of time that I've talked to you, I've seen it. I know what you're referring to. And I mean, you're a likable dude, and I mean, I guess not mentioning the segue here. I mean, I know all of us appreciate you being on here,
yeah.
and I mean, we were excited. I mean, when I was talking to you in Discord the last couple of days, I'm like, oh yeah, no, we definitely need to get this dude on. Like,
Yeah.
he's gonna mesh. We're just it's gonna be tangent heaven. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, and it was super last minute. I think it was like Monday night, kind of late. I was like, "Hey, Xillin, what you doing Wednesday?" But yeah, I think unless anyone has any last things to say, this is a good time to kind of wrap up, do some outros. Yeah.
Well,
All right.
thank you guys for having me on. I even last minute didn't matter. I had a great time. This is fun. I definitely feel like if we started this thing earlier, we could all just sit here and talk for 4 hours. With just no problem. Like no lulls in the conversation. It would just go for hours on end. And imagine if I had a drink in me a cup or two like you guys do, it'd be even worse. So no, it's been a great time. And
Worse
I really appreciate
or
you guys.
better?
Well, no, those are subjective. Those terms don't really mean anything. They can mean whatever we want them to.
But yeah, it was an absolute pleasure. I gave a shout out to Xillin. Go follow him on Twitch. We gave him a shout out on YouTube. Go follow him on YouTube. Also gave a shout out to my fellow awesome co-hosts, Fane and Super TCG. Go give him a follow on Twitch. I mean, there should be links to all their other channels. Last thing before I give everyone else a chance to do their own. We are trying to get this show's YouTube off the ground. So there's a link there to our YouTube. We will be posting both clips, 1 to 2 clips per episode, as well as the full episodes if you ever miss one. Please go give it a like, a subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Help us get it off the ground. We'd really appreciate it. Yeah, if you've enjoyed the show, definitely do that. And then, yeah, let's go out and just everyone can say their little outro and anything else they want to portray to the audience before we then, I know Xillin has to go, but the other 3 of us are going to be hopping up into the general chat of my Discord and just kind of hanging out for a bit and discussing anything post game for anyone that wants to hop in. It's open to anyone. The Discord link is right there. So yeah, if you want to hop in and chat with us for, we won't be there for too long. We're not trying to, stay up till 2 a.m., although it's happened. We'll do that. But let's start with Xillin. Do your outro here.
I mean, I don't really have that much to say, guys. I'm a YouTuber over on YouTube, and Xillin is my channel name, and I talk about Ashes of Creation almost every day. Come see me. I had a great time talking with everybody and interacting with people in chat, and this has been fun. Thanks, y'all.
Cool. Super.
I mean, as you see in chat, Super TCG, primarily doing Pokemon content right now, Pokemon pack breaks, whatnot. Once the visual NDA gets dropped, you guys know the deal. I'll be streaming some of that. Again, I want to say, Xillin, thank you for coming on, man. I really enjoyed this talk, and look forward to more random Discord tangents that we might go on in the future. So
let's do it.
All right, Fane.
Guys, you know the deal. It's Fane.com. Click the link. All my socials are right there. Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Go ahead and follow me.
Yeah. And I'm Bardic. You guys, I mean, you're on my channel. I've got a YouTube up as well. If you are interested in that, I will be having a video coming out on Friday morning that is directly refuting Xillin's last video. So there will be some.
Why would you put out an awful video on purpose?
I know it's almost like a lot of streamers have some kind of narcissistic view of themselves where they're always right.
Yeah, something like that.
But anyway, we're gonna toss a raid out here to Sego Mod. He's a member of Virtue. Another awesome member of the community. He's not streaming Ashes right now, but he plans to in the future and all of that. So go over there, show him a little bit of love. Yeah, thanks so much. Thank you, Xillin. Thanks for the last minute. It was super awesome to have you on. And we'd love to have you on again at some point in the future. Sure. So, all right, we'll see you guys all later. Thanks.
Bye, y'all.
Night, guys.